Today, we're going to be checking out the ODD from Warm Audio. So Warm Audio have been getting more and more into the pedal game, and they've been doing, what Warm Audio always does, making cool clones of stuff. Now, this one might be a little bit more contentious, and why is that? Well, I think it's because this pedal company that they're cloning from, until very recently, was still around. Like, I think this might be the fastest turnaround I've ever seen for a company having their pedal cloned after they go away. There's tons of old pedals that got made, decades and decades later, years and years later. But, for those of you who don't know, this is based on a Fulltone OCD. The OCD being a pretty famous overdrive. When I worked at a guitar store years ago, we sold a whole bunch of them. And I gotta say, they really nailed it with this. It aesthetically looks the part, it's built super well, but then it also really does sound just right. Now, I don't want to go too far into this and into the controversy around it, but, there was some protests going on. Mike Fuller, the owner of Fulltone, said some things that were, a bit tone deaf and off base, to say the least. And he was called out by some of his fans on social media, on Facebook. They were trying to correct him, say that, they plead their case for why they felt the way that they did. And then he made it worse by insulting his fans and followers. And then subsequently afterwards, he got dropped for major carriers like Sweetwater and Guitar Center, combined with, all the shipping and manufacturing problems that we had for a long time and everything going up in price. The Fulltone factory closed down. And so these pedals started going up in price. They started becoming harder to find, new, because everywhere that had them new was just selling their stock. And basically you could only find them used on like Reverb or like eBay and maybe Facebook Marketplace. So in comes Warm Audio with their ODD instead of the OCD. And they even, like I said, everything's aesthetically right and down to the font. Now, this is not really a metal pedal. It's not marketed towards the metal audience. A bunch of rockers, a bunch of blues guys really like this. Older players, people looking for maybe older sounds, because while a lot of pedals do claim to get that like tube breakup, tube distortion sound from a tube amplifier, this actually really does nail it very well, and it feels and sounds very good to play. So what are the controls on it? What does it do? Basic controls you see on an overdrive pedal. You have drive, you have volume, and you have your tone. Then there's also a toggle switch on this, and it says UK and US. And essentially, the UK is a bit drier, but it's way more mid-forward, and because it's so much more mid-forward, there's a perceived volume jump. And then the US sound is a lot more scooped, and because it's more scooped but more saturated, you get a volume drop. So I actually really like, if I'm using this just as an overdrive and like a clean channel, I prefer the US side of things, a little bit more scooped. I feel like it hits everything a little bit nicer. And then if I'm using this as a boost into something with high gain already, I prefer the UK mode because it has all those mids that you really want to hit. And on top of that, it also gain stacks really, really well. So for the in mix, we're actually going to hear this hit also with a different overdrive, a Ibanez TS9, just to boost it like you would an actual, tube amp, and it's going to tighten things up but add more saturation and really mean this thing up. And we'll hear it like that inside of a mix, both without the overdrive hitting it and with the overdrive hitting it, going into the clean channel of my Friedman BE50 Deluxe. And then we're going to hear it going into my Two Notes Captor X with a VM12 and DV77 speaker blend. And that will all be the same for the out of mix as well. But then also in the out of mix, I really wanted to hear how this thing hit an already gained up amp. So we're going to have it hit the blue channel of my EVH5153 as well, going into that same IR blend. Let's check it out. So you can definitely hear why this circuit is so iconic and beloved. Great gain tones, stacks super well, gain stacks super well, and then it even hit the front end of my EVH really good, and I got some pretty good aggressive metal tones out of it. So I don't think there's ever been a better time to maybe check this out now that these are available again, but also super affordable. I think they're like 120 bucks new, which is a steal for how great these sound and how well they're made. You know, not necessarily for me, which is why I did more of like the dad rock, like 80s kind of sound with it for the in mix, but it definitely is what suit the pedal best. But it's still really cool and sounds really, really good. So I'm going to have a link down below if you'd like to check out one of these for yourself or any of the other cool pedals that Warm Audio have been working on lately. Thanks for watching. Stay metal.